A naked woman was locked in a dog cage. The landlord said she was coquettish and she should wash up and put on the suspender she carefully prepared. He also brought a cake with 3 candles. The landlord happily said, "You are my third woman." A few days ago, Yan and her boyfriend went on a trip to the countryside and got very angry after having an argument with a passerby. Then she and her boyfriend went to a hotel to rest, but she felt that the landlord had been staring at her. She felt uncomfortable and went aside to call her sister back. She told her that she would go back to the landlord to find her boyfriend later. She asked if the enchanting girl was injured and could help move things. Just when she turned around to move the food, the landlord suddenly strangled her neck with a wire from behind. When Taeyeon came back, she found that her boyfriend's neck had been bleeding and was beaten to death by the landlord with a shovel. Taeyeon was scared. In a hurry, she turned around to run away, but was blocked by the dog. Then she was knocked unconscious by the landlord. When Taeyeon woke up, she was already locked in the dog dragon. Under the threat of the landlord, she obediently crawled next to her. The landlord grabbed Taeyeon's hand and asked her to put it away. After taking off his clothes, Taeyeon hesitated. The landlord said he wouldn't take them off, so he stayed inside. Taeyeon had to take off his clothes and finally open the dog dragon. Taeyeon couldn't help crying and came out. The landlord returned to his room, changed into a floral shirt, and then lit the cake. Taeyeon blew out the candles on the table, then clapped happily and said that Taeyeon was her third woman. Taeyeon instantly zoomed in and looked at the first 2 candles in fear. The landlord said that as long as Taeyeon was obedient, Taeyeon could ask her if she dared. Of course Taeyeon didn't dare to move, so she decided to sing her best singing song. Then she turned on the light ball and sang Moonlight with a Drake voice. When she started singing with great enthusiasm, Taeyeon couldn't help but coughed and the landlord yelled angrily. Taeyeon laughed at her, then grabbed Taeyeon's hair and threw her on the bed, strangled her neck hard before she could breathe, and made her lie down like a dog. Then he picked up a lump of cream and slapped it between her legs, then hurt her. The woman was tied up. When she got up, the man put on his gloves and said that this dog actually bit the owner. After that, he picked up the pliers and pulled out all Taeyeon's teeth. Afterwards, the landlord used alcohol to clean the wounds between the legs. At this moment, Jenny came to the hotel and wanted to find her. But the landlord was nowhere to be seen, so he looked around and arrived at the warehouse. At this time, Taeyeon heard the noise but could not make a sound. Jenny left without noticing it, turned around and bumped into the landlord, but learned that she was here to find the missing Taeyeon. Her expression caused a panic. Jenny noticed that before this, Taeyeon reported to her that they were coming to a suburban hotel for dinner and then went back in the evening, but they lost contact for several days. Jenny went to the police station to report the case, but the old police officer said there was insufficient evidence and refused to open the case for investigation. The new police officer Nan couldn't bear it and could only give her a report. If there is any problem with Jenny's business card, you can contact her. Jenny reported the crime to no avail. She could only go to the suburbs and walk around the streets to ask about the residents. She said she had never seen Taeyeon. Thinking of the restaurant Taeyeon mentioned, she rushed over. Now the landlord is here. In addition, a passerby said that he had seen her here before. Jenny was convinced that Taeyeon must have been kidnapped by the landlord, so she came to the police station to report the case. She begged the old policeman and the Nan police vouched for her. The old policeman had no choice but to agree to go to investigate. The police learned that the landlord seemed to be an old man. His wife ran away a few years ago and he never got married again. They didn't know why. They came to the hotel to investigate. The landlord looked reluctant, but they couldn't refuse police Nan and Jenny to enter the warehouse. Later, they discovered the basement but did not see a tooth on the ground. Jenny found nothing and could only leave with the police. Taeyeon was put by the landlord in a foot massage machine next to the warehouse. The landlord pressed the switch and the foot massage machine started to operate. Jenny was gradually involved. After entering, she was made into uranium and spread to chickens and shrimps. Jenny was about to get up and go back to Seoul. When she was leaving, she met the landlord. It was obvious that Jenny was the landlord's next target. The landlord lied to her and said that she saw a necklace that was too salty. Jenny immediately followed the landlord. The next day after returning home, Nam police received a call from the person who said they found her business card in a smashed silver car, so they contacted her. At this time, a passerby showed up again and said that he saw Jenny and did not return to Seoul. Nam police learned that Jenny might be when the accident happened. He immediately went to check the car and confirmed that it was Jenny's car. Witnesses said that the driver was a man. The Nan police investigation found something was wrong. They came outside the warehouse at night and walked in with a flashlight. At this time, Jenny's mouth was taped, her hands and feet were tied with a rope, and the landlord left. "Come over," Jenny asks where Taeyeon is, and smiles and says that Taeyeon has been killed by her. Yang Yan wants to kill the landlord. The landlord thinks she is noisy and kicks her out, saying that she fell in love with Jenny at first sight. Then she starts to touch Jenny, saying that she is better than her. The dead sister was softer and more delicate. She wanted to cut the landlord into pieces. Jenny had been imprisoned for 3,650 days and had never used the toilet. The landlord expressed his admiration and asked Jenny to stop resisting and live a happy life with her. Jenny was unmoved and continued with the landlord. After smelling the smell on her body, she asked her to wash up early and change into new clothes tomorrow. Jenny would beg the landlord not to leave her tomorrow. The landlord patted Jenny's face and turned around to leave. Jenny's eyes suddenly revealed a hairline and she quietly let go of the rope. The result was the landlord stopped and she quickly stopped. The landlord turned around and said cheerfully that he had prepared purple underwear for Jenny. After that, he turned and left. Jenny quickly released the rope, picked up the prepared knife and rushed towards the landlord. The landlord immediately dodged the knife and pierced her. The landlord grabbed Jenny's head and threw her on the shelf. The landlord pulled out the knife and kicked her in the stomach. Jenny fainted from the pain. The landlord left the basement angrily. The neighbor said that she had seen everything that happened in the basement. Before that, Jenny had asked her neighbor about her sister's whereabouts. The neighbor remembered her car. However, when she saw the landlord drive away her car at night, she knew that the landlord had an ulterior secret. If she didn't want to be exposed, she would hand over the increased real estate. The neighbor had prepared all the documents and was waiting for the landlord to sign them obediently. After the landlord finished signing, he did not give it to the neighbor but wanted to make a deal with her. The landlord took the neighbor around to the back of the warehouse and found Nanjing with his back. Nanjing quickly walked into the warehouse and found that the door was blocked. After locking the door, she could only find a tool to pry it open. At this time, the neighbor was lighting a cigarette. The landlord quietly picked up the kitchen knife. The neighbor turned around and stuck the knife directly into her forehead. Nanjing successfully opened the door and quietly walked in. He found Jenny and quickly untied her. Looking back, she saw the landlord walking in with an axe. Nanjing was struck in the head by the landlord before she could take out the gun. She fell down instantly and the landlord picked up the axe and struck her with the axe. Jenny quickly choked and got up and ran away from the basement. Jenny caught up and closed the door with her backhand. The landlord kept hitting the door with an axe. The stone door was smashed by the landlord. She reached out and opened the door. Jenny hid aside and had an idea. When the landlord rushed out of the road, the warehouse behind her suddenly lit up. She picked up the axe and rushed. When she came back, she looked around for Jenny and asked Jenny, "Where are you?" Jenny jumped directly in front of her and shouted, "I am here." Jenny pointed a pistol at her. The landlord smiled relentlessly and ignored Jenny's threat. "You are worthy of looking directly at me, I will kill you. The people who have lived there have eaten more food than you." After saying that, Jenny swung the axe and fired quickly, but missed. The landlord arrogantly swung the axe at Jenny and kicked the gun away. Then he continued to chop her, but the axe got stuck in the wood. Jenny, taking the opportunity, she crawled around, picked up a gun, and shot the landlord down. Jenny quickly asked her sister where the body was. The landlord proudly said that she put too much salt into the meat grinder. The landlord was still complacent and told Jenny that her sister was still alive when she came to see her. Jenny was heartbroken, but the landlord didn't forget to intervene again. Because Jenny pressed her step by step, she killed her sister. Jenny completely collapsed and hit the landlord with all the bullets. In the end, the lawyer said that Jenny was acting in self-defense, but what she did next should be mental problems. Jenny asked what happened. The lawyer said that after you killed the landlord, you threw her body into the meat grinder. Jenny's eyes were fierce. She was indeed in a trance when she killed the landlord, but she was extremely sober when she was thrown into the meat grinder. And she could do it again. Will still do it.